Throughout the course of history, nearly every dictator was firmly convinced that they would have more than enough time, that they could intuitively sense the moment of approaching danger well in advance, and that if things ever got truly bad, there would be some kind of signal. But that is simply not how it works. History shows us a different reality. There are absolutely no clear signals or warnings provided. Some are suddenly arrested, some are summarily executed, some are violently lynched, and some are publicly hanged. Right up to the very end, each dictator is convinced that everything is going according to plan. And Vladimir Vladimirovich lives with exactly this feeling today. Of course, you can consider yourself special, believe that the situation is under control. You can be sure that in your case, things will definitely turn out differently. Throughout the course of human history, we have witnessed this critical and recurring error on numerous occasions in the past. Let's take a detailed look at exactly how this scenario unfolded in practice for others, and explore the fundamental reasons why such a plan almost never works out as intended. In the late 90s, Slobodan Milosevic was the president of Serbia, a man who had survived several wars and managed to hold on to power. He controlled the country, the army, and the security apparatus, and at that moment appeared to be a leader who had already made it through the most dangerous times. It seemed that from then on, everything would be under control. Milosevic relied not on support, but on calculation. The elites were with him, not because they believed in him, but because it seemed profitable and safe. As long as this logic works, it creates the illusion of stability. Everyone plays their part and avoids making any sudden moves. The most dangerous thing at this moment is the confidence that you can sense the situation in advance. That if things get truly bad, it will be obvious. That the elites will give warning, the security forces won't betray you, that there will still be time to take control and resolve everything. It is precisely this confidence that there is still time and there are still levers of control that most often turns out to be false. On the surface, everything even looks calmer than before, and it is precisely at such moments that history usually makes its next move. Nicolae Ceausescu ruled Romania for more than 20 years. He built his power not only on fear, but also on the sense of universal support. Mass rallies, the right slogans, televised images of national unity, all of this created the impression that the regime was held together by consensus. The television reassured people, so there seemed to be nothing to worry about. The dictator's naive mistake here was believing that the image would inevitably send the right signal. Nicolae Ceausescu remained certain if public support disappeared, it would be instantly and clearly visible to the regime, which meant there would always be enough time to react, to fix things, or to apply even more forceful pressure. But at some critical point, the television screen completely ceases to function as a reliable indicator of reality. It simply keeps showing support automatically, no longer checking whether it matches what is actually happening out there in the streets. On the surface, everything even looks more stable than before. Such silence is dangerous because the next step can no longer be taken back. Muammar Gaddafi ruled Libya for more than 40 years. His power was structured differently than that of Milosevic and Ceausescu. He did not place his reliance upon the elites or on the carefully crafted television image. Instead, he relied solely on his own strength. Gaddafi systematically destroyed any independent institutions. The army was fragmented and the security forces competed with each other. Decisions were concentrated personally in his hands. The state existed not as a system, but as an extension of one man's will. As long as he was in place, it seemed there was simply no alternative. Such a structure creates a particular illusion of security. If there are no strong elites, there is no one to betray. If there is no independent army, there is no one to seize power. If everything depends on one person, then as long as he is alive, the system is stable. And it is precisely here that the most dangerous mistake arises. The authorities begin to believe that if they are the state itself, then any blow against them is impossible without complete chaos, and therefore no one will dare to challenge them, either from within or from outside. But the problem is that in such a system, there is no exit mechanism, no scenario for the transfer of power, no way to stop the process once it has begun. Any sudden move immediately becomes not just a simple matter of politics, but one of absolute survival. On the surface, as is usually the case, everything may appear stable until the very end, and then events begin to unfold so very quickly that there is simply no time left to calculate. Every one of those individuals mentioned was firmly convinced that things would turn out quite differently for him. It seems that Vladimir Vladimirovich is just as confident in his own path. So what ultimately awaits Vladimir Putin? If we deliberately put aside our personal emotions and wishes, the history of dictatorships provides a clear and simple answer. The final endings differ in form, but they rarely differ in their underlying essence. It is not the person's character or the scale of repression that ultimately determines the outcome, but the structure of power in which he unexpectedly finds himself situated at the specific moment when time starts working against him. Each of the examples we discussed had its own bet. Milosevic relied on the elites, Ceausescu on the appearance of popular support, and Gaddafi on the complete personalization of power. Today in Russia, we see a configuration in which all these models have come together. The elites are tied to the center and are afraid of making any sudden moves. The screen keeps assuring everyone that everything is under control, while the system itself is becoming more and more tied to a single name. From the outside, this looks like a concentration of power. When we look at the actual reality of the situation, it is a dense concentration of all potential risks all at once, because none of these theoretical models provides for a stable or peaceful exit strategy. And from that point forward, the flow of history ceases to be an abstract concept. The dictator is arrested and put on trial. A person who just yesterday controlled the country and the army now finds himself in a cell, without power, without allies, and without a future. That's how Milosevic ended, not on a podium and not surrounded by guards, but in solitude and with a complete loss of control. A dictator can be executed by firing squad, quickly, dryly, and as a public example. Yesterday, a national leader. Today, a man being let out under guard while a few lines are read aloud to him. That's how Ceausescu ended, without time to explain and without any chance to make things right. Or a dictator is lynched at the moment the system collapses, when everything disappears at once. Fear, hierarchy, the image, the sense of inviolability. That's how Gaddafi ended. A regime built on a single name left him with neither an institution of power to protect him, nor a safe way out. There were also those who were hanged after a formal trial. There were those who spent their last days in prison, forgotten by everyone. But there were almost none who left quietly, on time, and according to their own plan. The records of history do not look favorably upon such examples, and every single one of these individuals remained absolutely certain that he would perceive the approaching danger in plenty of time, that the warning would be perfectly obvious, that the critical moment had not yet come, and that he would still have time for at least one more move. The mistake was almost always exactly the same, the fatal error of miscalculating the timing. It seems that Vladimir Putin is currently operating under the same assumption, that the entire geopolitical situation is under control, that control has been maintained, and at the end, if it is even possible, is still a long way off in the distance. History does not argue or rush. It patiently and quietly waits until confidence and control becomes the very final and ultimate asset, one that can no longer be traded or exchanged for anything else. The long arc of history waits, Vladimir Vladimirovich. History waits.